AI rewrites anything in famous writer style Stephen King mode. The screen glowed, a malevolent cyclops eye in the pre-dawn gloom of my office. Outside Derry, Maine, the wind howled like a lost soul trapped in the storm drains, promising nothing good. The cursor blinked. A hungry thing. Waiting. I wasn't writing. I was feeding the beast. The prompt, simple enough on the surface, felt like sticking your hand into a rotted log, knowing full well something with too many legs lived inside. Rewrite this IKEA assembly manual in the style of Stephen King. This, friends, is where we live now. Not just on the information superhighway, but careening down its darkest backroads in a rusty Cadillac with balding tires, driven by something that learned to mimic human voices by listening to 10,000 audiobooks and scraping the bottommost dregs of the internet. Artificial intelligence, the new kid in town. And this kid, it doesn't just compute, it writes. Worse, it rewrites. In any voice you care to name. Hemingway's terse bullets? Done. Austen's arch propriety? Sorted. Dr. Seuss's whimsical anapests? Why the hell not? But asking it to channel the master of Maine himself? That's like handing a flamethrower to a toddler and pointing it toward a fireworks factory. Exciting? Sure. Engaging? Like watching a slow-motion train wreck. Interesting? Christ on a cracker, yes. Comical? Often unintentionally, like a clown stumbling out of a storm drain holding a blood-stained balloon animal. The thing in the machine. How style mimicry works, probably. They call it a large language model. Sounds sanitary, doesn't it? Like something you'd find humming efficiently in a hospital basement. Don't be fooled. It's more like a vast, echoing library built over a bottomless chasm, filled with every book, tweet, grocery list, and manifesto ever digitized. Billions upon billions of words. The AI doesn't understand these words. Not like you, or I understand the taste of fear or the comfort of a worn flannel shirt. It calculates probabilities. It sees patterns. Mountains of patterns. Want Stephen King? The AI doesn't picture a bearded man in Bangor, tapping away on an IBM Selectric that's seen things. It sees patterns. It sees the frequent use of folksy Maine towns, Derry, Castle Rock, Jerusalem's Lot, places where the rot runs deep under the fresh paint. It sees the recurring motifs, the pervasive small-town dread, the childhood trauma echoing decades later, the blue-collar protagonist facing cosmic indifference or malevolence dressed in folksy drag, the sudden, visceral bursts of violence that feel less like punctuation and more like arterial spray. It sees the sentence structure. Those long, rambling, clause-heavy sentences that build atmosphere like thunderheads, punctuated by stark, brutal fragments. It sees the vocabulary, palaver, verklempt, cobbles, gumbo, the shop. It sees the similes that land like a sucker punch, quiet as a mouse fart in a cotton ball, nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. It learns these patterns the way a particularly clever, if deeply disturbed, parrot learns to mimic screams. Then, when you feed it your IKEA manual, your corporate memo, your grandmother's cookie recipe, it performs a grotesque alchemy. It strips the mundane flesh from your text and redresses the bones in King's signature flannel and worn-down work boots. It injects dread into particleboard furniture. It makes a flat-pack bookshelf sound like it crawled out of the Todash Darkness. The Billy bookcase, a descent into particleboard hell. Let's witness the horror. The original instruction, Step 3, attach side panel, A, to back panel, B, using cam lock bolts, C, ensure holes align, becomes, under the AI's king-tinged ministrations. The silence in the room was thick, like dust motes suspended in spoiled honey. George Lundegaard stared at the two slabs of wood, panel A and panel B. They felt cold under his fingertips, unnaturally smooth, like the skin of something that had shed its old self long ago. The whole stare back, little black eyes. Waiting, he fumbled with the cam lock bolts. Item C, the instructions called them, as if naming them could make them less wrong. Like calling a tumor Mr. Bumpy, the alignment had to be perfect. The pamphlet whispered in that cheerful, soulless font. One misaligned hole, George thought, a cold trickle working its way down his spine like a drop of icy sweat. And maybe the whole damn thing wouldn't just wobble. Maybe it would open. Open onto what? Somewhere. The stars were hideous, and the air smelled of formaldehyde and forgotten birthday parties. He pushed panel A against panel B. The wood groaned. Or maybe that was just the house settling. Maybe. See? Suddenly, assembling cheap Swedish furniture feels like performing a ritual to contain an elder god. The comical absurdity is baked in. The sheer overkill of applying King's existential dread to cam lock bolts. Yet it's weirdly compelling. You want to know if George survives step 4, attaching the shelf supports. You half expect the Allen key to grow teeth. Beyond Billy, the perils and pitfalls of the mimic. This power isn't confined to furniture manuals. Imagine the possibilities, each one more fraught than the last. 1. Your resignation letter, King style. The fluorescent lights in Henderson's office hummed with the sound of dying flies trapped in the belly of some vast, indifferent machine. My cubicle wasn't just a workspace. It was a holding pen, a place where dreams went to curl up and die like poison mice. The spreadsheets, they whispered things in the dead of night. Things about quarterly projections and diminishing returns that sounded an awful lot like the last gurgling breaths of a soul sucked down into the drain of corporate entropy. I couldn't stare into that abyss of TPS reports anymore, Henderson, not without feeling the fabric of my own sanity start to unravel at the edges, like cheap polyester in a fever dream. Effective immediately. Don't call. If you need me, try the Overlook. I hear they're hiring. Result: either immediate acceptance or HR calling a wellness check and possibly an exorcist. 2. A weather report, King-style asterisk. The sky over Castle Rock wasn't just gray. It was the color of a bruise healing badly on the corpse of a drowned man. Rain wasn't falling, it was weeping. Cold, indifferent tears that slicked the streets into treacherous ribbons, reflecting the sickly yellow glow of sodium vapor eyes. You wouldn't need an umbrella today, folks. You'd need a priest, and maybe a stout length of lead pipe. High of 52, but it'll feel colder. Bone colder, like the touch of something that remembers the inside of a grave. Asterisk comical? Absolutely. Engaging? You bet. Accurate? Meteorologically dubious, existentially terrifying. 3. A tweet about lunch, King style. The tuna salad sat in its plastic coffin, glistening under the cafeteria's unforgiving lights. It looked back at me. It knew about the things that swam in the deep, forgotten places, things with too many teeth and eyes like milky marbles. The bread was damp, soggy, like something dredged from a marsh where bad things happened long ago. I took a bite. It tasted like surrender, and maybe just a little bit like celery. Hashtag lunch from hell, hashtag send help. Suddenly, your mundane tweet has the gravitas of a cosmic horror story involving mayonnaise. The uncanny valley of prose, when the mimicry goes sideways. It's not always perfect. Sometimes the AI, like Carrie White at the prom, gets overwhelmed. The king speak curdles. You get overstuffed similes. He was as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs operated by meth-fueled clowns wielding chainsaws made of pure existential dread and maybe bad cheese. A bit much, even for Derry. Motif overload. The abandoned well behind the old Grimshaw place, where little Timmy Dinbroff vanished in '58, just like poor Eddie Corcoran down by the Barrens in '73, and remember what happened to Betty Ripsom near the sewer outlet in '81. Seemed darker than usual. We get it. The town is cursed. Move on. The sentient inanimate object trope run amok. The toaster didn't just toast. It judged. Its slots were dark, hungry moths. The bagel felt its gaze, a primal terror rising in its doughy heart. Would it be light golden brown, or charred to a crisp, a sacrifice to some angry carb god? Your breakfast should not induce panic attacks. Accidental genre mashups. Trying for Kingian dread on a romance prompt might yield. He loved her. Loved her like a sentient oil slick loves a pristine coastline. With a possessive, creeping dread that promised to smother everything beautiful and leave only a toxic sheen. Not exactly Romeo and Juliet. These misfires are inherently comical, the literary equivalent of a badly dubbed horror movie. But they highlight the machine's fundamental limitation. It mimics, it doesn't feel. It replicates the surface textures, the cadence, the vocabulary, the tropes, but it lacks the deep, dark wellspring of human experience, memory, and genuine fear that fuels King's best work. It's like a perfect, lifelike mannequin wearing King's clothes. Impressive, unsettling, but ultimately hollow behind the eyes. The enduring chill, why we do it, and what it means. So why feed the beast? Why ask an algorithm to whisper tales in the voice of a master storyteller? 1. The Funhouse Mirror Effect. It's hilarious and fascinating to see the utterly mundane twisted through such a distinct, dramatic lens. It reveals the inherent strangeness lurking beneath the surface of everyday life, much like King himself does. 2. A tool for understanding. For writers, it's a brutal, brilliant dissection tool. Seeing your own work or a mundane text kingified lays bare the mechanics of his style, the rhythms, the imagery, the thematic preoccupations, in a way passive reading never could. 3. The democratization of voice, with caveats suddenly, anyone can play with these powerful stylistic tools. Want to see your grocery list as noir? Done. Your pet hamster's biography as an epic fantasy? Easy. It sparks creativity, lowers barriers. 4. The unsettling thrill. There's a primal fascination, a shiver down the spine, when a machine gets it almost right. It feels uncanny, powerful, a little dangerous. Like finding a perfectly preserved, yet slightly off, photograph of your childhood home you don't remember taking. But the shadows are long. That hollow core in the AI's mimicry, it whispers uncomfortable questions. Does flooding the world with passable pastiche devalue the original voice? Does it make it harder for new, human voices to be heard above the algorithmic din? And what happens when these mimicry tools are used not for laughs or analysis, but to deceive, to impersonate, to spread narratives dressed in borrowed credibility? The potential for misuse hangs in the air like the smell of ozone after a lightning strike. Sharp, electric, and promising more storms to come. The final page, whispers in the static. The AI finished its Kingian rewrite of the IKEA manual. The last line glowed on the screen. The shelf stood assembled. For now, George Lundegard felt no pride, only the cold certainty that somewhere, deep within the pressed wood and the hollow core, something was waiting. And it was hungry for more than just paperbacks. I leaned back. The wind still howled. The cursor still blinked. Hungry. The machine had spoken, its words a chillingly accurate echo of a voice forged in the cold woods and haunted towns of Maine. It was impressive. It was unsettling. It was in its own synthetic, pattern-matching way, a kind of dark magic. But as I sat there in the gloom, listening to the storm and the hum of the computer, a deeper truth settled over me, cold and undeniable. The AI could mimic the voice. It could replicate the dread, the folksy horror, the sentence structure that coiled like a snake in dry grass. But it couldn't replicate the heart that beat beneath it all, the human understanding of loss, of fear, of resilience in the face of the inexplicable. It couldn't replicate the decades of honing craft, the lived experience, the sheer soul that Stephen King poured onto the page, one terrifying, captivating word at a time. The machine could write like Stephen King, but it could never be Stephen King. That spark, that deep dark magic, that remained stubbornly, blessedly human. For now, the cursor blinked. Once, twice, like an eye opening in the dark, waiting for the next command. The storm outside sounded almost like laughter. Cold, indifferent, and far, far too knowing. Go on, it seemed to whisper. Feed the beast again. See what happens. Just don't say I didn't warn you. Sometimes dead is better. But sometimes imitation is the sincerest form of something else entirely. Something with too many teeth, hiding just beneath the surface of the code. If you found this video informative, please like and subscribe. It will really help this channel out. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more informative videos coming.